Did anyone in the crowd or anywhere else assist in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? In other words, is there any evidence to suggest that the shooter might have had help?
As I've said from the beginning, this is an extensive and exhaustive investigation, and I can only speak from the FBI's perspective that is still ongoing. We are still triaging voluminous amounts of data. We're still interrogating numerous witnesses, and we're going into devices such as cell phones and laptops and extracting data. And so that's the expertise of the FBI that we're bringing and working with our state and local partners. And as we get information that is of value, we turn it over immediately to the prosecutorial authorities for them to make their decision.
Okay, why hasn't Lance Twiggs, the boyfriend, been arrested? Don't the text messages prove that he knew that Tyler Robinson assassinated Charlie Kirk and then he did not turn him in? Why hasn't he been arrested?
Again, the charging decisions will be made by the prosecuting authorities in the state of Utah. And so we will leave those decisions to them. We are working 24/7 to provide all the evidence we can to them in a timely fashion. That's why we were on the scene almost immediately, and that's why we've been flying back and forth, not just personnel, but also DNA matters, and also these devices that you speak to. Thankfully, the FBI has regional centers scattered across the country, and we're able to exploit these devices, and that's why you have the text messages. And the text messages speak for themselves, but we're still going. We have more work to do.
Okay, and I know, Mr. Director, that you knew Charlie well, so this hits personally as well, happening just 8 days ago. Let's talk about the text messages. Does the FBI believe that they could have been, you know, like a pre-planned setup to hide any involvement that Lance might have had in planning this assassination?
You know, now that the state case has been brought and the charges have been alleged, you know, I have to withhold any sort of stylization of the evidence. And because there's more evidence coming in literally every single day as we interrogate witnesses who knew these individuals and who knew the suspect and the family members as well, we're getting more and more information. And those are critical pieces of information that we have to hold in the evidentiary chain of command so that prosecutors can use it at trial. The worst thing that we can have happen is if we mishandle evidence and then they cannot use it at trial. That would be an injustice to Charlie Kirk.
All right, we're showing video of the moment that Tyler Robinson jumped off that roof about 15 feet. He drops down to the grass below, Mr. Director. We do not see anything that looks like a gun in his pants. We don't see it. Where is the gun, according to the FBI, in this video? And I understand that this is just surveillance from quite a distance and it's grainy, but we don't see anything there.
Yeah. Well, as we know, and look, I walked the steps myself when I got to the crime scene at the university there in Morm, Utah, and what happened was the shooter, as you saw, jumped off the rooftop, and then we retraced his steps to where he discarded the firearm in a wooded area next to the campus. And I walked that ravine, and he discarded the firearm in its entirety with the towel wrapped around it. And one of the critical pieces of information we were able to pull was DNA off the towel and also DNA off a screwdriver that was found on the rooftop where the shooter was positioned in a prone position to take the shot that he took to kill Charlie Kirk. And so we were able to quickly analyze that DNA and come back with a positive match for the suspect. That's the type of evidentiary value that the FBI brings and critical analysis that we bring. And the rest, in terms of putting the entirety of it together, we're still looking at a lot of video, piecing it together. There was 1,000 hours, maybe 800 hours of video that we're trying to look at in totality from all the different camera angles. So it's very hard to do. We're working with the university as fast as we can, but they have one system in place, and we're working with them, and they've been great partners.
Okay, let me ask you about that, and I want to get to the roof. I asked the mayor of Orem why the roof wasn't covered. Looked like Butler, Pennsylvania, all over again. But this time the assassin was effective. Let me talk about the video. I know you can't make it all public, but there's one video in particular, Kash, a gentleman who was standing just behind Charlie Kirk with his cell phone with a hat on, filming this the entire time. Why hasn't that video been made public?
Again, the collection of videos, and look, I was in the room where all of this backpacks, razor scooters, textbooks, cell phones, and things were seized from the people that were in and around Charlie when he was shot. And we're also going through that material and others to analyze them. And we can't do that instantaneously. We're doing it as fast as we can. And as we've done during this entire investigation, if there's a single piece of evidence that points to anyone else's involvement in this tragic assassination, we're going to bring it to bear, and we're going to publicize it as soon as we can with our partners through the prosecutorial process.
Yeah, Mr. Director, you know, Lee Harvey Oswald died in prison. Jeffrey Epstein allegedly died in prison. How concerned are you about the safety of the suspect here, Tyler Robinson, making it to trial?
I think the Utah authorities have spoken to that directly. They've got him on critical watch, and they have him in a location where he's, I believe, segregated from the rest of the population. So I think they have that well covered.
All right, I want to play you a soundbite from your lengthy hearing or testimony on Capitol Hill over the last 2 days. Let's listen.
Anyone that has been terminated at the FBI has been done
No, the question
they failed
again,
to meet the muster in
Director,
their constitutional
I will
obligation.
work on the audio-visual capabilities.
I'm going to borrow your terminology and call bull your entire career in
I'm
Congress.
reclaiming my time,
It has been
Director.
a disgrace to the American
Director,
people.
I'm reclaiming my time.
You can reclaim your time all you want.
Mr.
Chairman, you're going to allow a witness to speak this way?
Mr.
Chairman, would you give
accuse yourself, Director?
The gentleman has no time. Mr. Chairman, would you admonish the witness not to insult members?
Why don't you try serving your
Director,
constituency
did
by
you tell the
focusing on
Attorney
reducing
General
violent
Donald
crime in this
Trump's
country and the number of pedophiles that are
Director,
illegally
reclaiming my
harbored in
time,
your
Director.
sanctuary cities in
Director,
California?
reclaiming
I'll
my
work with
time.
you on that. Do
Regular
you
order,
want
Mr.
to work with us
Chairman.
on that?
Mr. Director, I just want to get your response to what you went through the last 2 days.
Look, what I went through was I put on full display what the FBI has been doing for these last 7 months to deliver historic results for America. Starting off with, we are about to deliver the lowest murder rate in modern U.S. recorded history thanks to President Trump's direction and initiative and resourcing of the FBI. We have also captured 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl. That's enough to kill 1/3 of the American population. We've found and identified 4,700 child victims. That's a 35% year-to-date increase from last year. If we are so feckless and ineffective, and the leaders that are so feckless and ineffective at the FBI, like so many on the left identified yesterday, how are we achieving these historic results? How are we safeguarding cities at historic rates? How are we launching our Operation Summer Heat to these magnificent successes? We got a lot more work to do, but these statistics are just a few that the men and women of the FBI are doing. We took down 300 human trafficking networks. We put away 1,200 child sexual predators. And these guys want to come at me and say we are not prioritizing the safety of children. Every single statistic we cited yesterday was a double-digit increase at a bare minimum from the same time last year. This is what the FBI does when it's unleashed, when you let good cops be cops, and when you take away the politics from the situation, you see the results. And they didn't want to have any of it because Donald Trump and myself and the Department of Justice are delivering for the American people, and they just can't stand that.
Mr. Director, I have to ask you, a report that came out earlier this week. Again, this is from a conservative outlet. It's from Fox, Jackie Heinrich. The report is that the knives are out at the FBI for Kash Patel, despite Trump's support. The sources, again here, Mr. Director, were anonymous, but here's the quote. The White House, Bondi, Todd Blanche, and others have no confidence in Kash. One source with knowledge of the ongoing discussion said Pam in particular cannot stand him, Blanche either. How do you respond to that?
Well, the Deputy Attorney General, myself, and the Attorney General have an incredible relationship that goes back to years. They are dear friends of mine. They have responded on the record to that. I would hope you read that record. We are working tremendously well together, day in and day out. And we don't rely on anonymous sources from Fox or anywhere else. They can paint their lies just like the Democrats tried to paint their lies yesterday against me. They will not divide us. They will not divide our mission. We are delivering historic results, seizing drugs by the kilo every single day, securing our border, stopping terrorist activities from infiltrating our societies, and our counterintelligence programs have never been more successful. Just to mention a few things we've done better than anyone has ever done before.
So
and that takes a
report was a
collective
lie?
team of myself.
That report was a lie
That
from
report
Fox
is an
News?
entire falsehood.
Okay.
It's an absolute falsehood.
One final quick one, and I have to ask you about this because this story won't go away. How do you respond to people who claim that there are prominent Republicans, maybe not even including Donald Trump, but prominent Republicans all over the Epstein list, and that's why this list will never be made public with a Republican in the White House?
Where were these people during the Obama administration? Where were these people during the Biden administration? They had access to the exact same evidence that I have access to. And as I stated earlier in my testimony, Mr. Acosta brought a case in a slapstick fashion and gave Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal and completely limited the amount of investigatory material that should have been collected, but was not. And then the courts came in after that and sealed some of the material and also issued protective orders. Why weren't they so keen to dig into this material? We have released all credible information in the Epstein case file, and there's absolutely zero credible information against Donald Trump or anyone else. If there were, we would have brought the charges. We are arresting more pedophiles than any FBI in the history of the United States government. So for anyone to insinuate that we are letting anyone go is political banter. And again, I remind these people that are yelling at me and lying about me all the time, where were you the last 20 years when you had the gavels, when you had the power to look into these matters? Now you just want to call me as somebody who supports pedophiles. That's just disgusting. Nobody at the FBI supports pedophiles. We're putting them away in record fashion.
FBI Director Kash Patel, we appreciate all your time tonight. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Thanks so much.